After transmigrating into the deeply affectionate second male lead, I successfully walked down the aisle with the female lead. However, on the wedding day, the female lead tore off her veil, kicked off her wedding shoes, and ran toward the male lead with tearful eyes. "I love you. Take me away." Standing on the high platform, I lightly curled my lips. "Who do you choose?" Desire churned in the male lead's eyes as he rushed up the platform. "Sorry, I'm here to steal the groom." The roar of the sports car's engine filled the air as Jason Carter sped through the streets, leaving behind the chaos of what was supposed to be my wedding. My heart pounded in my chest, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. I couldn't believe it. I had actually escaped. And it was all thanks to Jason. In the eyes of everyone else, a man crashing a wedding was always assumed to be there for the bride. But Jason was different. He had always been different. He was the childhood friend I had tried to please since I could speak, the one constant in my life, despite everything. And today, he had chosen to stand by me once more. As we pulled into the long driveway of Jason's villa in the suburbs, the reality of my freedom began to sink in. The moment the car stopped, I unfastened my seatbelt and exhaled deeply, feeling lighter than I had in years. "Thanks, Brother Jason," I said, reaching over to pat his shoulder. "I swear, I'll pay you back for this one day." Jason turned to me with a soft chuckle, his dark eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Oh, and how exactly do you plan on repaying me?" Something about his tone sent a shiver down my spine. A teasing lilt, yes, but beneath it there was something else. Something that made my instincts scream danger. Yet, I quickly brushed the thought away. This was Jason. The Jason who had looked out for me for 23 years. He would never harm me. But then I met his gaze, burning, intense, as if he wanted to consume me whole. I instinctively leaned back, trying to put some distance between us, but my elbow hit a button on the side of the seat. With a soft whir, the passenger seat began to recline. Jason leaned forward as the seat continued its descent, and in my panic, I simply followed its trajectory until I found myself lying completely flat. Jason's upper body loomed over me, his presence overwhelming. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. Instinct told me that something irreversible was about to happen. My breath hitched. I closed my eyes, not daring to think. And then, the seat suddenly bounced back up, and Jason let out a rare laugh. "Are you pretending to sleep because you're afraid you can't pay the price? Sleeping Beauty." His voice was a lazy drawl, but it sent tingles down my spine. The way his breath ghosted against my skin, the teasing lilt in his words, it was maddening. I snapped my eyes open, scowling. "Who says I can't pay? Name your price." Jason's smirk only deepened. Slowly, he reached for the ribbon that had come undone at my collar and pulled it free. I stiffened, unsure why something so simple made the temperature in the car rise to unbearable levels. He shook his head, eyes never leaving mine. "Vincent," he murmured, his voice dropping an octave, "you can't give me what I want." My brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I don't have much in my savings, but I can give you $5 million first. If that's not enough, I can write an IOU. Jason's expression froze, his lips parting as if he was at a complete loss for words. "Jason?" I asked hesitantly. Did he really think I would default on my debt? I nervously licked my lower lip and promised, "I really will work hard to earn more money." Jason's eye twitched. His jaw clenched. "I don't need money," he nearly growled. Before I could ask what he did need, the car phone rang, cutting through the tension. Without thinking, I pressed the answer button. "Vincent!" My father's furious voice nearly shattered my eardrum. "Do you even realize the mess you've made? Running away from your own wedding. Do you know how much disgrace you've brought upon the Ling family?" I winced, my grip tightening around the phone. "Come back now and coax Miss Jenny. You must get married." Money moves people's hearts, and this saying is absolutely right. Otherwise, why would my dad be willing to call a child from such a despised business marriage? But from the day I decided to elope, I was ready to break off my relations with him. I immediately retorted with a sneer. "I won't come back, you might as well just give up." "If it really doesn't work, you can kneel down and beg Miss Jenny. Isn't groveling what you're best at?" This rebellious speech completely angered him, and a roar followed. "I raised you until now. What's wrong with letting you pay a little? You ungrateful bastard!" I sneered and was about to scold him back, but Jason grabbed my wrist, his face cold and frightening. Vincent won't come back. Even if it's a contract marriage, I'm a better choice. After speaking, he hung up the phone. I didn't understand Jason Carter's logic. I asked, "What do you mean?" He explained, "Without Miss Jenny, there will still be others in the future. But you don't want them. Your dad will definitely force you by any means." Saying this, Jason gave me a deep look. On the contrary, being with me not only shuts your dad up, but also lets you have your own space to grow. When the time is right, you can break free from his control, and as your bro, of course, I won't stop you. Thinking this way was indeed correct. A contract marriage with Jason Carter had great benefits. No wonder he was my recognized bro. For me, he could sacrifice his reputation and time to this extent, which was too touching. My eyes were full of sincerity, nodding repeatedly. "You're so smart, Brother Jason." Jason Carter suddenly sighed. But before our contract marriage, there was a very important issue. The matter of elopement. Miss Jenny will not let it go. As he spoke, he lifted his phone, displaying the latest trending search. Ling family's young master publicly elopes. Miss Jenny Wong is sad and decides to continue the romance with the younger uncle. If I'm not mistaken, this younger uncle should be my half-brother from the same father. Wong Jenny's way of handling things was truly unusual. Of course, the speed of smearing was also unmatched. I looked serious. "Brother, I'll go back and steal the surveillance. Don't worry, my speed at climbing water pipes is top-notch." After all, during high school, I climbed water pipes every day to escape to Jason Carter's house for refuge and fun. Jason Carter held his forehead like a disappointed teacher dealing with an overly confident student. "Don't worry," he said with a sigh. "I've already got the surveillance video." I clapped my hands together with admiration. "Too strong." Jason set his phone down and suddenly placed both hands on either side of my face, roughly ruffling my hair. "Baby, can't you be a bit more thoughtful?" My voice came out muffled between his palms. "I think I did great coming up with this elopement plan. Besides," I added more seriously, "you're by my side, Brother Jason. You're my best friend. Definitely on the same side as me." Ever since I was little, he'd always been that one person I could count on. Stubborn, intimidating, and annoyingly perfect. But standing beside him always made me feel like I was safe, like nothing could touch me. Jason looked at me, clearly amused, and let go of my head. A little rascal who only cares about the beginning and ignores the rest. Then, like the competent boss he was, he immediately got to work. He called his assistant, gave a few orders, and just like that, the truth came out. Jenny Wong's schemes were exposed to the public, and the netizens who once pitied her now turned against her like a pack of wolves. As for my dad, well, he blew up my phone with calls I had no intention of answering. I pressed decline over and over until I finally held the power button down and turned it off for good. No more guilt-tripping voicemails. No more manipulation masked as fatherly concern. I shoved the phone in my pocket and got out of the car with Jason. Just as we were stepping into the villa, Jason's hand suddenly reached out and grabbed mine. Without thinking, I opened my fingers and interlocked them with his, our old habit. He used to do this whenever he was in a bad mood. Back in high school, when his parents fought or when he failed to get first place in a test, the only time I ever beat him, he'd grab my hand like this. It became our silent comfort. But something fell off. I turned to look at him. Sure enough, Jason's face was doing that thing again, the one where he smiled a little too much to hide how annoyed he was. Seriously? We had barely walked 10 steps from the car to the villa. What happened in that distance to make him mad? "Brother Jason," I said, trying to coax him like a good little sidekick. "Why are you unhappy?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled me toward the sofa, sitting down with a firm tug. "There's still something missing," he said, his tone cool and calm. "Haven't you noticed?" I blinked. "Missing what?" He gave me that look. The one where his eyebrow raised just enough to scream, "I'm disappointed, but trying to be patient." "You promised to have a contract marriage with me," he said slowly, like I was a child learning basic math, "but you forgot that a contract marriage needs to be announced." "Wait, announced?" Jason continued, tone increasingly aggrieved. "I remember very clearly, you and Jenny Wong had a contract engagement and even took a whole set of photos for it. Posted everywhere. The whole world knew about it. His eyes narrowed slightly. And me? Your current partner? Not even a single photo. Not a line of announcement. Nothing. Oof. His tone wasn't angry. No, it was worse. It was hurt. I felt my heart lurch just a little. Wait, Brother Jason, are you jealous? Jason gave me a sideways glance. I'm just saying, if I don't get the same treatment as Jenny Wang, people might think you value her more than me. Now, my heart was sour. The idea that Jason, my forever partner in crime, could feel like that because of me didn't sit right. I reached out, gently tugging on his sleeve. Then, let's take photos. Right now. Jason raised an eyebrow again. Now? Yes, I said seriously. We'll take 100 if you want. We'll post them all. We'll make it a trending topic, Vincent and Jason's legendary love story. His lips twitched. You're so dramatic. I seriously began to doubt whether something was wrong with my brain. Maybe I had a mild disorder. Why else would I say something so ridiculous? But Jason Carter looked absolutely delighted. His smile, that rare and beautiful one, melted across his face like spring snow. Soft, gentle, disarming. I pouted. No, I told myself, it's fine. It's just competitiveness. Yeah, that's it. A healthy drive. Jason and I both have a strong sense of motivation, that's all it is. As for the random fluttering in my chest, an illusion. A glitch in the matrix, probably low blood sugar. But just as I was starting to convince myself, Jason suddenly pushed me down onto the sofa with alarming force. His body loomed over mine, his arms on either side, caging me in. His breath brushed across my face, warm, close, intimate. My heart skipped, then stuttered. Then decided to start thumping like I was on the run from the cops. All it would take was one slight tilt of the head and our lips would... Nope. Nope, nope. I clenched my fists to keep them from shaking and stared at his lips. For the first time ever, I noticed how soft they looked. A little too soft. The kind of soft that made you wonder how they tasted. Were they always that color? So pale and kissable? My brain short-circuited. I was so lost in that stupid moment that I didn't even notice the click. Jason pulled back with a triumphant grin, raising his phone like he'd just secured a national treasure. I blinked, coming back to my senses, and glanced at the screen. There it was. A photo of us on the sofa, our faces close enough to fool anyone into thinking we were mid-kiss. Romantic lighting. Perfect angle. Jason's stupid smirk. Wait until the storm settles, he said casually. Then we'll use this photo for the official announcement. I opened my mouth, ready to argue, because, hello, this was a lot for a fake marriage setup. There had to be a limit somewhere, right? But before I could speak, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and froze. For a guy who handled multi-million-dollar deals without blinking, that expression didn't bode well. He answered, and I heard a woman's voice immediately explode through the speaker. Brat! Mr. Ling just called me. He said you ruined Vincent's wedding. What are you thinking? And what's this nonsense about a contract marriage? I stiffened. Jason rubbed his forehead like he was aging in real time. Mom, I don't want excuses. Get back here right now and explain yourself. Do you have any idea what this means for the Carter family? And just like that, the call ended. I sat up, guilt settling in my chest like wet cement. So it wasn't just my life that was getting wrecked. I had dragged Jason Carter, the golden boy of the Carter family, into this mess too. All because I couldn't handle my family's greed. Because I chose to run away. Because Jason had offered me a way out, and I took it without thinking of the consequences. I looked at him. His face was calm, but his eyes held that familiar storm, one he always hid too well. My heart, which had been on a roller coaster of embarrassment and confusion just moments ago, slowly began to quiet down. I messed up. And now Jason was paying the price. I trailed behind Jason Carter like a guilty child about to meet the principal. The moment we stepped into the villa, my legs stiffened. There they were, Mr. Carter and Aunt Bai, sitting calmly on the living room sofa, sipping tea like it wasn't my entire life on the line. Their expressions were unreadable, like two bosses at the end of a level I wasn't ready to face. Before I could talk myself into running, Jason suddenly grabbed my hand. I blinked at him, startled. He didn't give me time to process it, just walked straight up to his parents, dragging me along like a guilty accomplice to a crime we both knew I committed. But this was my mess. I couldn't let Jason Carter shoulder the blame for me, not when he'd already done so much. So I gripped his hand tightly, maybe for courage, maybe to reassure him, and stepped forward. Uncle Carter, Aunt Bye, I said, summoning every ounce of sincerity I had. It's all my fault. I didn't want to get married, so I begged Brother Jason to help. Please, don't blame him. Uncle Carter didn't look at me. His eyes were locked onto Jason's, sharp and direct. Come with me to the study. I panicked. Wait, that was it? No yelling? No dramatic scolding? Uncle Carter, then I also. Before I could finish, Jason gently pulled me back. His eyes met mine, steady, calm, confident. It's okay, he said softly. Wait for me to come back. Just like that, he turned and walked away. I stood there frozen, my heart dropping with every step he took toward the study. Vincent, Aunt Bye's gentle voice broke the silence. Don't worry, they're just talking. Come sit. I nodded numbly and sat across from her. My brain scrambled for words, anything to explain, to take responsibility, but before I could begin, she asked, Did Jason lie to you? I stared at her, confused. Lie to me? About what? I had nothing he needed. No money, no power, no status. I was just me. I shook my head firmly. Brother Jason didn't lie to me. I'm the one who's been causing trouble for him. Aunt Bye chuckled softly and pressed her fingers to her temple as if my answer gave her a small headache. Vincent, you really can't just believe everything Jason says and blindly follow along, okay? Her voice was kind, not accusing, but it still made me feel like a kid being told not to eat glue. I won't, I nodded seriously. I promise. She smiled, relieved. Good. Then go rest for a while. You've been through enough today. I nodded again. But instead of heading to the guest room like the butler suggested, I quietly tiptoed my way upstairs. I didn't want to rest. I wanted to see Jason. So like a thief sneaking into a place I definitely wasn't supposed to be, I slipped into Jason Carter's room and sat on the edge of his bed, waiting and waiting and waiting. 2 hours passed. The golden glow of the afternoon light dimmed into soft shadows. My eyes grew heavier and heavier. I curled up on his bed, half covered by the edge of his blanket, telling myself I was just going to rest my eyes. But as soon as I blinked, sleep pulled me under completely. Jason still hadn't come back. And somewhere between guilt, exhaustion, and the smell of his pillow, I finally drifted off. When I opened my eyes again, the soft light filtering through the curtains gave the room a warm, golden hue. But that warmth was nothing compared to the sight in front of me. Jason Carter was kneeling beside the bed, his face swollen, his expression full of unspoken grievances. I bolted upright. Brother Carter? My voice cracked. Sorry, it's my fault you were beaten. My sleepiness disappeared in an instant. I scrambled to open the drawer beside the bed, searching for ointment or anything that could help. But just as I turned back around, Jason was already watching me with those drooping eyes, like a pitiful puppy who got kicked by the world. My chest tightened. If I had gone with him, maybe I could have taken the blame. Maybe it should have been me instead. Regret burned through me, but there was no use crying now. I jumped off the bed and crouched beside him. Let's apply medicine first. I dipped my fingers in the white ointment and gently dabbed it onto his cheek, smoothing it carefully. But just as I was about to pull my hand back, Jason suddenly caught my wrist. His grip was warm, firm. Baby, he murmured, his voice laced with sorrow and a hint of something else, something dangerous. My face hurt so much. I froze, heart hammering like it had something to be guilty for. Should I blow on it? I asked cautiously. Jason shook his head, his gaze not moving away from mine. I heard a kiss will stop the pain. What? He leaned a bit closer, voice barely above a whisper. Can you kiss me? A kiss? My brain short-circuited. Kiss him? Isn't that something only lovers do? Wait, no, that's not entirely true. Foreigners kiss on the cheek when they say goodbye. Friends, sisters, sometimes even bros kiss in movies. Jason and I were so close, he'd help me so much. He wouldn't lie to me. So maybe a kiss really was just friendly comfort? I took a deep breath and looked him dead in the eye. Brother, lower your head. He smiled faintly and obeyed, bowing his head toward me. My pulse fluttered in my throat as I leaned in, every millimeter making my brain buzz louder. I closed my eyes. Soft, warm, wait, moist. I blinked my eyes open. I kissed the corner of his lips. The corner. Not the cheek, not the forehead, not even the tip of his nose. His lips. Jason's lips. I reeled back, stunned. My fingers trembled slightly as I touched my own lips. Why? I aimed so carefully. There was a full thumb's distance from the lip corner to the cheek. Could it be? He moved. I stared at him suspiciously. He gave me the most innocent, wide-eyed look. "Baby, why did you kiss my mouth?" My mouth opened, but no words came out. "I don't know either." My brain scrambled for an explanation, but nothing came up. Nothing reasonable, at least. And just when I was about to demand whether he moved on purpose, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, then answered it without hesitation. "I need to take this," he muttered, already walking into the bathroom. The door closed. I sat there, blinking at the now empty room as a strange silence settled in. I wasn't allowed to listen. Why? The warmth from earlier turned bitter in my chest, spreading slowly and stubbornly like ink soaking into paper. By the time Jason stepped out, dressed and looking more serious than before, my heart had already gone quiet. He gave me a gentle smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. "Baby, stay here and rest today. I have something urgent to handle. Don't leave the Carter house." I nodded silently. He turned and left, and I stayed behind, on his bed, with a soft taste still lingering on my lips and 1,000 unspoken questions echoing in my chest. I tossed and turned on Jason Carter's bed, tangled in the sheets and my own thoughts. My eyes wouldn't close, and even when they did, sleep felt like a shallow puddle, uneasy, fragile, slipping through my fingers the moment I reached for it. Eventually, I fell into a half-dream, something soft, something warm. A hand brushing my cheek. Jason's voice, close but distant. When I jolted awake again, the sun had shifted in the sky. Still no message from him. I sat up, heart heavier than it should be, and opened our chat. The screen was quiet. The last message from him hours ago. I typed a greeting, deleted it, typed again, paused, deleted. Frustrated, I exited the chat app and opened my dialer. My thumb hovered for a second before tapping his name. Busy tone. I stared at the screen, disbelieving. Did he just reject the call? Before I could even wrap my head around it, my phone buzzed again. Hope surged, only to plummet. "Danny. Finally, the busy person is willing to deal with me?" Danny's voice was bright, full of mischief. "It's exploded online. I'm picking you up. Come to my place. I want to witness this drama firsthand." I sighed, rubbing my temple. "Okay, being with you should be fine." After we hung up, I sent him my location. Immediately, I got a reply. "Do you still need to send it? Who doesn't know to find you at Jason Carter's place in the circle?" I blinked. Is it that obvious? I waited outside for him. As expected, Danny didn't make me wait long. His car pulled up with music blasting, and he leaned out the window, holding up 2 milk teas like trophies. "Emergency comfort drinks," he announced. "One for you, one for me." Back at his villa, I sat on the plush couch sipping my milk tea, trying to quiet my spiraling thoughts. Danny flopped beside me. "So," he nudged me. "Tell me, are you and Jason Carter together?" I blinked. "What? No, of course not. Brother Jason is just helping me. It's a temporary thing." To clear things up, I told him about the contract marriage announcement. Just business, nothing more. Danny stared at me like I'd grown a second head. His expression shifted between horror and disappointment, finally landing on pity. "I swear, I'm gonna buy you a truckload of brain tonic," he muttered. "How can you even misunderstand something this obvious?" "Jason was the one who suggested the fake marriage," I defended weakly. "That's exactly my point." Danny shot up, practically vibrating. "Jason Carter has always liked you. You think he'd pull something like this for just anyone?" I opened my mouth to protest, but the words didn't come. Jason likes me? A strange warmth bloomed in my chest, bubbling like a spring I hadn't known was there. But before I could feel it fully, an old memory crept in like a shadow. A folded piece of paper, his neat handwriting, the soft look in his eyes that night when he thought I wasn't watching. "I saw it once," I said quietly, avoiding Danny's gaze. "A love letter. He has someone he likes, and it's not me." Danny's expression changed again, this time folding into something almost mournful. He reached for a decorative handkerchief like an old drama queen and dabbed at his eyes. "Oh, honey." I didn't say anything. I didn't trust my voice not to crack. The silence stretched between us, heavy and fragile. But then Danny's phone buzzed, and he let out a shocked gasp. He turned the screen toward me, eyes wide. "What the hell? How are they together?" The image was grainy and dark, taken in a bar, probably, but it was unmistakable. Jason Carter. And Wang Jenny. She was pulling down his collar, her lips dangerously close to his neck. My breath hitched. That ache in my chest tightened like a knot. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. It was like watching a train crash in slow motion. Was this where he went? Was this the urgent thing he left for? I bit the inside of my cheek, forcing myself not to say it aloud. Danny, on the other hand, was already halfway out the door, grabbing my hand like a woman on a mission. "Scumbag, honey! Let's catch the cheater!" I stumbled after him, still trying to understand what I felt. Hurt, confusion, or something deeper. But one thing was clear. We were going to find Jason Carter. The ride to the bar felt like being strapped to a rocket. Danny didn't speak, and I didn't ask. His fingers were white around the steering wheel, his foot heavy on the gas. The world blurred past the windows as if it couldn't keep up with the chaos in my chest. When we arrived, he stormed through the entrance like a man possessed, dragging me behind him until we reached the private room number someone from his gossip group had leaked. The door was slightly ajar. Danny and I instinctively pressed ourselves against the wall, peeking through the crack. I sucked in a breath, heart rattling in my chest. Jason Carter sat in the middle of a large leather sofa like a mafia boss in a crime movie. Collar slightly loose, expression unreadable, one leg crossed lazily over the other. But what truly stunned me wasn't his posture. It was the man in the black suit, a bodyguard I vaguely recognized who had Wang Jenny's head pinned firmly against the table. Her body struggled, but the man didn't budge. The entire scene radiated tension, power, and judgment. "This," Danny whispered, swallowing hard. "Honey, I think we came to the wrong place." He tried to tug me away by the arm. Too late. Jason Carter looked up, and his gaze landed directly on me. I froze. His stare didn't hold anger. No, it was calm, cool, but sharp enough to pierce right through me. I felt an odd guilt rising in my throat, even though I had no clue what I was guilty of. No, wait, why was I feeling guilty? I squared my shoulders, glaring back at him. He chuckled, of all things, chuckled, and lazily adjusted his collar as he rose. His voice rang out low and clear. "Wang Jenny, if you trouble Vincent again, I don't mind helping Miss Wang clean up the house." My heart jolted. He was doing this for me? I had nearly forgotten. Wang Jenny wasn't just my supposed ex-fiancée. She was the illegitimate daughter of the Wang family, always hidden behind her glamorous older sister. But when Jason left for abroad a few years ago, she took that chance to torment me for nearly a year. And my father, desperate to please the Wang family, told me to endure it. Told me to marry her. A memory of her high heels crushing my notes flashed behind my eyes. Now she was pinned like a criminal while Jason stood protectively in front of me. He crossed the room quickly and without hesitation reached between Danny and me, gently separating our fingers before sliding his own into mine. Warm, firm, possessive. I looked up at him, flustered. His lips tilted into a soft smile. "Why are you here?" The answer slipped out of me before I could stop it, Danny's words still echoing in my mind. I came to catch the cheater." I felt the heat rise to my face instantly. Jason's expression didn't change. If anything, his smile deepened, his eyes narrowing like a predator who just caught his prey. "But I have no affair for you to catch," he said smoothly. "I'm very faithful to you. Did you misunderstand me? How are you going to compensate me?" "What?" How did I suddenly become the bad guy here? With our fingers still interlocked, I pinched him hard between the knuckles. He didn't even flinch. "You were the one who made me misunderstand in the first place. You should compensate me." I smirked after saying it, a little proud of myself. For once, I was using his tactic against him. Jason looked like he was about to respond, but Danny stepped forward with exaggerated exasperation. Am I a third wheel right now? Should I vanish into the shadows?" Jason laughed softly, the intensity in his gaze relaxing. "It's over. Let's go home," he said, then added without a pause, "and send Miss Jenny home, too." As we turned to leave, the tension easing slightly, a screech broke through the air behind us. "Vincent," I stopped cold. Wang Jenny's voice cracked and desperate. "Do you even know what Jason Carter's done behind your back? You know nothing, idiot. You licking my shoes was too cheap for you." The color drained from my face. My blood turned to ice. I didn't dare look at Jason, not because I believed her, but because some part of me still remembered how it felt to be humiliated, to be stepped on, and I was scared. Scared that she might have buried a piece of truth under her venom. Jason didn't hesitate. "Shut her up," he ordered. "Send her to Miss Wang." The bodyguard moved immediately, and for the first time, fear sparked in Wang Jenny's eyes. But I couldn't focus on that. Every instinct I had screamed at me to run. I was shaking before I even realized it. That's when Jason turned back and swept me into his arms without warning. My breath hitched. "Let's go home," he said gently. And somehow, despite everything, I let him carry me. After parting with Danny, Jason drove us back to his usual flat. Sleek, high-rise, tastefully furnished, and too quiet for how loud my thoughts were. I sat curled up on the corner of the leather sofa like a guest afraid to touch anything. Jason, ever the host, handed me a glass of water and took a seat beside me, not saying a word. I stared at the water, hesitating. "Was the call you got yesterday?" My voice trailed off. I had to force the rest out. "From Wang Jenny?" Jason nodded. I looked down. So, he knew everything. "Did you see them?" I asked hoarsely. He didn't reply. Not directly. Instead, he reached over, straightened my hunched shoulders, and wrapped one arm tightly around my waist, pulling me into him like I belonged there. The warmth of his body, the weight of his arm. It all made me want to collapse. I pressed my face into his shoulder and let the tears fall. Silently, shamefully. Jason's hand moved gently from the back of my neck to the small of my back. His voice was low, close to my ear. "It won't happen again. Don't be afraid, baby. I won't leave you anymore." Something inside me cracked, pain giving way to something terrifyingly close to hope. The kind of hope that could destroy you if you believed in it too soon. My tears eventually stopped, though my face felt swollen like a bruised peach. Jason ruffled my hair with a rare, soft smile and stood. "I'll get a hot compress," he said, disappearing into the bathroom. Left alone, I reached for my phone, trying to distract myself, to breathe, to stop trembling. But instead of relief, I was met with more venom. Wang Jenny. Again. Her messages appeared one after another. "If Jason Carter knew the love letter he wrote was intercepted by you, what do you think would happen?" I stared at the screen, frozen. That letter. The one Jason gave me the night before he went abroad. A white envelope, rain-dampened and sealed with care. He said it was for the one in his heart and asked me to deliver it. Everyone thought that person was Wang Jenny, so I, the good friend, the background character in their supposed love story, took it with shaking hands. But I never delivered it. A storm hit that day. I slipped. The letter got soaked. The ink bled. I kept it. I didn't have the heart to hand her something ruined, or worse, something that might have been meant for someone else. So I said nothing, and Wang Jenny made sure I paid for it. Now Jason knew. At least he might. I quickly typed a reply. "I've already told him." I didn't know if that was brave or stupid, but I hit send anyway, heart hammering wildly in my chest. I couldn't sit still. Fear and guilt churned in my stomach, the kind that made you dizzy, breathless, desperate to run before you had to see the disappointment on someone's face. So I stood, put on my shoes. Maybe I could walk off the anxiety. Maybe I just needed air. Or maybe, if I was honest, I was trying to run away again. But then, his voice stopped me cold. Low. Sharp. Cold enough to freeze my blood in my veins. "Where do you think you're going?" I froze, one foot still halfway in the shoe. Jason stood in the hallway, holding a towel, steam from the bathroom still clinging faintly to his skin. He wasn't angry, not visibly, but his gaze was locked on me, intense and unreadable. I turned, mouth dry, unable to explain myself. Jason's expression didn't change. He set the towel down slowly, stepped forward once, then again. And just like that, the walls started to close in around me. I shivered, biting my lower lip so hard I almost tasted blood, unable to find a single word to say. Jason scoffed, a quiet, almost mocking sound. Before I could react, he stepped forward and lifted me up. "Jason?" I gasped, my arms instinctively circling his neck for balance. "Can you put me down, please?" But he didn't listen. He carried me like I weighed nothing. Each step unhurried, deliberate, until he reached the bed. He dropped me there, right in the middle, without a word. I tried to sit up. Big mistake. Jason pushed me back down without hesitation, flipping me over and pinning me beneath him. His knee wedged between my thighs, locking my legs, and his fingers circled both of my wrists, pressing them down above my head. I froze, breath caught in my throat. His face hovered close, too close, his breath warm against my cheek, lifting the longer strands of hair near my ear. "Baby," he whispered, his voice dangerous in its calmness. "You know everything." I flinched. "Don't think about running." Panic gripped me again, this time sharper, deeper. I'm sorry, Brother Jason, I stammered. I didn't mean to. Please, I didn't mean for any of it to happen. I thrashed, desperate to break free, to escape, but it was useless. Jason was stronger, and he wasn't letting go. Then I heard it. Click. A cold, metallic sensation touched my ankle. My heart dropped. I craned my neck just enough to see a chain, gleaming faintly in the dim bedroom light, extended from underneath the bed and now fastened tightly around my ankle. Jason? My voice broke. What is this? What are you doing? I tried to move, only to feel the restraint tug against me, rattling quietly like a warning. He had locked me up. Jason Carter had actually locked me up. Had he gone completely mad? My breathing quickened. My thoughts spun. Was he going to punish me like Wang Jenny? For not delivering the letter? For being a traitor in his story? Did everything he said earlier mean nothing? Had he only given me a sliver of hope so that despair would hurt more when he took it away? I fought. I kicked, twisted, pulled, anything, but the difference in strength between us was too big. I couldn't even lift my wrists an inch from the mattress. I finally gave up. My throat burned as I shouted, "Just because I didn't deliver that stupid letter to Wang Jenny because I made you two miss out on your love, so now you're doing this to me? I know I was wrong, okay? I can apologize. I'll make it up to you however you want. Just don't treat me like this, Jason." My voice cracked, breaking into something smaller, something helpless. I was begging. But Jason didn't respond. His grip slowly loosened. I lay there, breathless, staring at the ceiling, until I felt it. The change. I turned my head and looked up. Jason was still hovering over me, but his hands were trembling slightly. His lips parted as if to speak, but nothing came out. His eyes. They weren't angry. They weren't cold. They were shocked. "Jason, what exactly do you want?" I asked softly, my voice barely rising above the silence. "Can you give me a clear answer?" The tension in the room was suffocating. Jason didn't answer. Instead, he turned around, walked out the door, and left me alone. My chest tightened. What was he up to now? More punishment? A new form of torture? I looked down at the cold chain fastened to my ankle. It hadn't budged, and I didn't dare to test its limits again. So I waited. Minutes dragged on until finally I heard the door creak open again. Jason Carter stepped inside, this time with something in his hand, a photograph. His head hung low, bangs slightly covering his eyes. I couldn't read his expression. I clutched the bedsheet tighter. He stopped at the edge of the bed, then slowly knelt down on one knee. He placed the photo on the blanket in front of me. My breath caught. In the picture, faded slightly by time, was Jason, 18 years old, eyes bright and full of something unspoken, pressing a soft kiss to my brow while I was asleep at my classroom desk. I stared at it, stunned. Then I heard his voice, low, hoarse, nearly trembling. "There's no one else. It's always been only you." His fingers gripped the edge of the bed. "I thought Wang Jenny sent you this photo, too, and that you were going to reject me." He raised his gaze. "Vincent, don't leave me alone." His eyes shimmered, desperate, wild, pleading, like a boy who had lost too much and was terrified of losing the only thing left. I couldn't breathe. The dangerous aura he gave off grew stronger with every inch he leaned in. My instincts screamed to retreat, to protect myself, but my heart, it beat faster instead. Jason leaned in so close, all it would take was the lift of my head for our lips to meet. I swallowed. "If I don't accept," I whispered, "what will you do?" He didn't answer. He simply leaned back, softly, gently. His eyes closed like he was trying to calm himself. Was he giving up? A strange panic surged through me. I searched for his figure, only to see him kneeling by the bed again, one hand slowly reaching for my ankle. Jason's fingers brushed over the metal chain, then slid upward, lifting my pant leg slightly to reveal the pale skin underneath. Without warning, his lips followed the trail. Soft at first, then rougher, biting down to leave dark red marks along the damp skin. I flinched. "It hurts, Jason, wait." I sat up and instinctively reached out, my hand covering his eyes. "Stop." I exhaled shakily. "I won't leave." His body froze beneath my touch. "I really like you." For a moment, everything stilled. Then the chaos returned. Jason groaned lowly, like a beast finally given permission to lose control. He didn't stop at my ankle. The next kiss landed on my knee, then my inner thigh, and then I lost count. I lost myself. Tossed, turned, marked, claimed, until exhaustion dragged me into sleep. But when I woke up, blinking against the soft morning light, the first thing I felt wasn't warmth or freedom. It was cold metal. I looked down. The chain on my ankle was still there. Still locked. Jason Carter hadn't let me go. Not yet. My back ached. I groaned as I propped myself up and aimed a punch at Jason Carter's arm, though it was more of a weak slap thanks to my drained strength. "Take it off already," I hissed. Instead of obeying, Jason smirked and leaned in again, his hands beginning to roam as if my protest had been an invitation. "Not again, Jason?" I cursed and shoved at his chest, my lips swollen, my limbs tired from all the relentless intimacy. "I'm not joking." He kissed the corner of my lips like a spoiled child, ignoring my resistance completely. It was as if my words filtered through a screen, heard but not absorbed. "I need to use the bathroom," I said, desperate now, pointing toward it. "Can you at least let me go for that?" Jason tilted his head slightly, that maddening smile returning. "Nope. Baby still wants to run away." I clenched my fists in frustration. "Then how the hell am I supposed to go?" His answer came in the form of movement. He pulled the blanket off and stood beside the bed. My eyes widened as he bent down and slowly pulled out more of the chain, an extended section hidden cleverly beneath the bed. So that's why I hadn't felt any resistance the night before. I sat there, stunned, speechless. And then, without asking, Jason picked me up again and carried me into the bathroom. Turns out, the chain was long enough to give me free movement around the entire room. I stood inside, dazed, as the reality sank in. What is this? A twisted version of a forced love drama. My mind spun. There was something terribly wrong here. Somewhere along the way, something had gone off the rails. I looked at Jason, his warm eyes, his gentle touch, and I just didn't understand. What turned his obsession into something so binding? Back in bed, I didn't struggle. Instead, I leaned forward and wrapped my arms around his neck. My lips brushed his ear. "Brother Jason," I said quietly, "tell me the truth." The flicker in his eyes, the tight line of his mouth, told me everything before he spoke. "You used to really like being close to Wang Jenny," he finally murmured, his voice like a confession and a wound all at once. "You were always pestering her." And just like that, the memories that had been locked away, ignored, pushed aside, flooded in. After I transmigrated, I was forced to follow the storyline. That meant chasing after Wang Jenny, clinging to her, acting out the role assigned to me. I didn't have a choice until she rejected the arranged marriage. Only then was I free. But in Jason Carter's eyes, everything he'd seen had been real. He thought I chose her. Not him. No wonder he snapped. I slowly pulled away from his arms, rising on shaky legs and walking toward the window. The morning light filtered through the sheer curtains. I grabbed the blackout ones and pulled them closed tightly, wrapping the room in complete darkness. Then, wordlessly, I returned to Jason's side, climbed into bed, and kissed him, deeply, deliberately. My hands roamed. My lips whispered promises. I pleased him in the dark, offering myself not as a captive, but as someone who finally, maybe, understood the weight behind his madness. And as I trembled beneath him, my breath hitching, I whispered the truth I had hidden for too long. "I'm not the Vincent you remember. I'm not even from this world." Jason froze. Then his arms wrapped around me tighter, almost crushingly so, and he buried his face in my neck. He didn't question it, didn't recoil. He just held me, like he finally understood something he'd been struggling with all along. I don't know what time it is anymore. I don't know if it's day or night. The lights are off, the world outside shut away, and in this darkness, we just exist. Together, even if nothing makes sense anymore. When I woke up again, the first thing I noticed was the weight, or rather, the lack of it, on my ankle. No chain, just a faint red mark like a fading bruise. Quiet evidence of the madness we'd somehow turned into something real. Jason Carter wasn't beside me. For one irrational second, panic surged in my chest. Then, like a beacon, the scent of warm food lured me out of the bedroom. I followed it into the living room, where sunlight spilled across the floor, and Jason stood at the table, carrying out breakfast like he did this every day. Without a word, I stepped forward and hugged him from behind. No thoughts, no hesitation, just me, holding the man who once locked me up and now fed me pancakes. But just before I could enjoy even a bite, my phone buzzed with a call that immediately soured the air. I didn't even need to look. Only one man had that kind of timing. Vincent, my father's voice barked in my ear, sharp and ugly. You think you're grown up now? If it weren't for me, you'd have died on some street. I raised you. This is how you repay me? Here it comes. Now, either I cut off your card and you fend for yourself, or the Carter family invests $10 billion in our company. You're so good at pleasing young Master Jason. Why don't you beg him in bed for it? Did you hear me? If you don't obey, I'll scatter your mother's ashes. I froze. Not because of fear, no, that left me long ago, but because of the disgusting familiarity of it all. His voice, full of threats, his twisted love always tied to control and humiliation. But he didn't know the ashes weren't where he thought. He didn't know I had already prepared everything before deciding to run away with Jason Carter. He didn't know he had no more power over me. But before I could say anything, Jason snatched the phone from my hand, voice cold and thunderous. "Vincent is my lover," he said flatly. "Watch your mouth, or I don't mind pulling out every project we gave to the Ling family." I blinked. Wait, what projects? I turned to him, stunned. Jason glanced at me and silently mouthed, "Elopement." I nearly choked. So that's why he gave those projects? To appease the Ling family after stealing their heir? I sighed and took the phone back. "Stop my card if you want," I said clearly. "I don't rely on you anymore. You'll never find my mom's ashes, and as for the money you spent raising me, I'll pay every cent back. After that, we're done." His voice roared through the line, but I calmly hung up. "Take back the projects," I told Jason with narrowed eyes. "Don't let the Ling family benefit." He looked pitiful, even pouting a little. "But I already told my parents. That's your dowry." I stared. My what? Suddenly, the memory of that day he was beaten came back, when he came home bruised and limping after confronting his parents. "Wait," I said slowly. "It wasn't because you helped me elope, but because of the dowry?" Jason averted his gaze. "No," he mumbled. "It was because they thought I laid hands on you." My confusion deepened. He rubbed the back of his neck, face flushed. "You know, Aunt Gia and my mom are best friends. They watched you grow up. You were the little cabbage they loved. And, well, their pig, a.k.a. me, dug it up." Oh no, it finally hit me. Back then I thought he got beaten up because of me, and I actually felt bad for him. I pitied him. Jason Carter played me. I gritted my teeth and smacked his shoulder. "Jason Carter, you shameless bastard," he laughed and caught my hand, pulling me down onto his lap like I weighed nothing. "I love you too." "You're impossible," I muttered, face burning. "But you're mine," he whispered, resting his forehead against mine. "From now on, no chains, just me and you." I sighed, reluctantly wrapping my arms around him again. Yeah, he was shameless. But what could I do? I still had to adapt. I still have to walk with him until the end of my life. Somehow, despite everything, I still loved him. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.